Welcome back into the GSMC Sports Podcast. We are now going to be talking about the NBA Combine. We have a lot of this currently going on, so if anything happens in real time, we will be looking to react to it. But there were two players in particular from the day one of the Combine that I sort of want to dive into. They are two of the more polarizing prospects in the NBA draft process currently, and that is Bronny James and Zach Edey. But starting with Bronny, it's been a lot of speculation about whether or not he should be entering the NBA draft, sort of the pros and cons of it. He was, frankly, not very accomplished at USC, and we've talked about this in the past. Part of that was out of his control, the fact that he suffered that cardiac arrest back during training camp of last summer definitely put a damper on the start to his season. He didn't get the full training camp, wasn't able to begin the regular season for the first time, and really by the time that he ended up making his way back, USC had already sort of, imploded some. But again, in terms of we're talking about resumes alone here, it seems like Bronny is probably the least accomplished player to be at the Combine. And now, honestly, I definitely don't get over upset about, who does and doesn't get invited to the Combine. I feel like it's just sort of a fun exercise to have on the side that I pay attention to, but it's not like it's this glorious, event that takes place. It's not even to the level of the NFL Combine, but Bronny is here, and we do have some takeaways, but before we do, I just want to sort of touch on the reports that came out on Monday afternoon about the fact that it seems like Bronny is going to be staying in the NBA draft. There was a very good chance that he could, when he first declared that he was leaving USC, it was to enter the transfer portal and to test NBA waters, and it seemed like he was going to come back to school, considering the fact that I don't believe that he is NBA ready, but we are sort of hearing that seems like he is going to make his go at the NBA. I think that it is a mistake a little bit, because I don't know if necessarily he is, in a position right now, and, public perception is all one thing. If he gets drafted, it is in large part going to be sort of viewed as a type of nepotism, because of the fact that, to some degree, if you want to go the pedigree argument, he does have the LeBron James, genetics in him, and we saw him record, he had a 50.5-inch vertical, which was among the top of all participants. So we know that he does have some of that athletic potential, and I thought that he showcased his shooting pretty well in the Combine, at least through yesterday, which is also definitely a positive for him. But in terms of, size, he was listed at just 6'1.5 inches. He was, I have the weight number as well, that he was just 210 pounds. He's a small player, and it seems like he needed to sort of develop more, I thought, with another year of college from a physical aspect, but also I just wanted to see him get an opportunity with, I wouldn't necessarily say his own team, but Duquesne was one of the programs that he was sort of linked to, and being able to go there a little bit under the radar and not in one of these Power 5, Power 6 conferences, to be able to just work on his game. I thought that conviction was something that he really struggled with during his freshman season at USC, was having the confidence to make decisions, and at times he showed some capabilities of, being able to make plays for them, but he didn't display it on a regular basis, and it didn't seem like there was ever that confidence level that showed he was going to be able to be a point guard in college, let alone in the NBA. Now, I do sort of, as I talk through this, I do sort of wonder what would be best case for his development, because at the same time, if he's going to make it to the NBA, and I believe he is just about guaranteed, and again, this is where the nepotism conversation starts to come in. And by no means do I want to tear this kid down, because I almost do feel bad for him in some way, that he understands as well that his name is going to be attached to LeBron. And I thought he gave some really good quotes at the press conference about his concern isn't about playing with his father. It's about, making the NBA just flat out and doing his own thing, showing that he can be a contributing player. So you have to respect that. But for Bronny, it is like a little bit of a question of, is the best possible developmental track for him going to the NBA, probably being in the G League, now working with NBA coaches, probably, it's not like Bronny has to necessarily worry about the financial stability or anything and being able to sort of cost himself money when he does have a little bit of a backbone off of the family name. But is it better for him to just get as much NBA experience as possible, or is it being able to operate in a college system? Again, maybe selfishly, I wanted to see him come back to college and try and refine his game, but ultimately he decides to go to the NBA, and it's not 100% confirmed, but it sounds like he is going to be sticking it out with that process moving forward. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section. He sort of compared himself. There was a list of a few players that he put out there. It was Derek White, Davion Mitchell, and I forget what the third one was in terms of players that could help contribute to winning. And they weren't necessarily, the stars of their team, but players who can sort of come in, play good defense, hit shots when they're open. And I do believe that there is a real, potential of Bronny being able to be a good shooter. Now, off the dribble is maybe a little bit more of a question. I think he did well in the off the dribble drills that he ran yesterday, at least, but I feel like it would probably be more of a catch and shoot situation. And like I said, in terms of, I have a little bit of doubts in terms of his conviction. That is something that you definitely need from a point guard that's going to be potentially, running the show. Because for Bronny, given the fact that he is just 6'1.5 feet tall, he is going to need to be able to sort of make the quick decisions and be sure about them. And if you don't have that necessarily at his size, I feel like it's going to be really hard for him to find his way into, real NBA minutes. But, we'll see. I really do genuinely hope that my concerns about Bronny are, wrong, because I think it would be great for the league to see, Bronny end up being an actual contributing player. But I do, again, like I mentioned, I already do have, I guess my bias would be that I wanted to see him run his own show at the college level, and it's probably going to be, assuming it goes through with this NBA process, it's going to be a couple years before we actually get to see him sort of operating a team at a high level, on a national audience. But maybe that's also what he needs. So again, let me know what your thoughts are on the Bronny James draft process. But the other player I wanted to touch on briefly here was Zach Edey, who is another one of the, very controversial sort of, I shouldn't say controversial, I should say polarizing prospects in the upcoming draft, where his, his massive size is sort of a conversation where he's going to come into the NBA next year as the heaviest player in the draft. I believe he weighed in at 299 pounds, something along those lines. We already know how big he is. That was never really a question from his college career, but it's about the fact of, is it going to translate to the next level? Yes, having somebody who stands 7'3" and 3/4 of an inch tall with a 7'10" and 3/4 inch wingspan, having a body that size can never be a negative for a team. And, I wouldn't say that size alone is going to be what makes him a draft pick in this instance, but that paired with the fact that there is some semblance of, a post-game, I think more so than Taco Fall, who we saw go undrafted probably in the 2019 draft, that, there is more offensive fundamentals there to at least become apparent for him. But what was really interesting was the fact that he was giving these quotes about how he is developing a three-point shot, and he actually did well in some of the shooting drills. It was the off-the-dribble shooting drills as well that were pretty impressive, and I do think that would be, obviously, it would be, first off, I think objectively hilarious if Zach Edey did become a reliable shooter, and all of these people who said that his game can't translate if he was able to just be a knockdown three-point shooter. I think it would be awesome, and this is coming from somebody who also, personally myself, I don't think that it necessarily translates to the next level, but the fact that it's clearly on the top of his mind, he understands that is likely what's going to be almost make or break for him in terms of being able to be effective at the next level. As long as he continues working on that, again, just to at least be a threat at that size. Obviously, there are concerns with him defensively as well and just mobility in general, but would be really cool to see Edey's career continue on, because he has been one of, and I understand the reasons why, but he's been one of the most disrespected college stars of, recent history. And I would personally prefer to see him continue playing. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section. We're going to be taking our final break here, and when we come back on the other end, we're going to be diving into the WNBA debut of Caitlin Clark. She struggled some, so want to talk about whether or not it is a concern or not. Stick with us, and we will be right back.